So we are getting closer to the end of the regular season. While things are starting to shake out a little bit, the reality is that we've still got a lot to figure out in the last 5 weeks of the season. And with that, let's take a look back at the week that was, my recap of week 13 of this 2021 NFL season. Then at the end, I'll kind of give you some bonus in terms of my post-week 13 power rankings, kind of combining two videos into one here. So looking back at week 13 in the game action, the Cowboys were able to force 4 Taysom Hill INTs. How the hell that dude continues to get paid big money, I have no idea. Dallas beat the Saints 27-17. Shifting over to the Sunday action, you have the Buccaneers defense hold Atlanta scoreless in the second half, which was big for them. They were able to get by the Falcons somewhat comfortably 30-17. The Arizona Cardinals forced 4 Red Rocket Andy Dalton INTs. Imagine that. Kyler Murray with 4 combined touchdowns in his first game back in over a month. The Cardinals fly past the Bears 33-22. The score wasn't even an indication of how much of a blowout this was. The Cardinals beat the Bears like the Hallis and McCaskey family owed the Bidwells money again. Ugh. The Chargers defense forced 4 total Bengals turnovers. Justin Herbert threw for over 300 yards. And the Chargers with a big, impressive win that they needed, beating the Cincinnati Bengals 41-22. Jared Goff with a TD pass to finish the game to Amon St. Brown, easy for me to say with 4 seconds left, giving the Lions their first win of the year. They did it, baby! The Lions have been good about covering the spread in weeks, but damn it, they were due for a win, and Dan Campbell got it. Your kneecaps are shattered, bitches! Lions win 29-27. Oh, Mike Zimmer. Oh, you suck. The Dolphins D don't look now, but they shut down giraffe neck Mike Glennon, who was filling in for injured Danny Dimes. Miami's won its 5th straight game. They beat the Giants easily 20-9. Minshew Mania, baby, was going crazy in Philadelphia. 19 unanswered points led the Eagles to a somewhat comfortable victory over the Jets, 33-18. Jonathan Taylor boosts his MVP case, has a decent day. Colts defense totally shuts down and obliterates the Houston Texans' pathetic offense. Colts roll 31-0, and look out, here come the Colts. Johnson's 48-yard field goal at the end of the game helps Washington get to 500, beating the Raiders 17-15, and I guess that NFC East isn't quite decided just yet. Jaguar meat is apparently just what the doctor ordered for the Los Angeles Rams. I think everybody saw this coming. LA steamrolls Jacksonville 37-7. Lamar Jackson had a tough day. His offensive line had a tougher day, giving up 7 sacks. It was capped with that missed pass on the 2-point conversion late. Love the balls of going for 2. Fuck overtime. Like, go for the win. You play to win the game, damn it. But when you don't convert, unfortunately what that means is the Steelers were able to squeak by and win 20-19. The Seahawks defense held tough in the 4th quarter, forced a big play late, got past the San Francisco 49ers 30-23. And again, I just ask, why does San Francisco insist on continuing to start Jimmy Garoppolo? What are you doing? You want to be a 500 team? Fucking dumb. On Sunday night, Harrison Butker's 3 field goals, Daniel Sorensen's pick 6 led the Chiefs over the Broncos 22-9. Speaking of teams that passed on a quarterback to draft a defensive player because they were dumb. Ugh. And then the Monday night game. The Patriots, this shit was ugly. Mac Jones threw a whopping 3 times. So it's a quarterback team win. Team wins are a QB stat. Even though he threw 3 fucking times, his handoff game was on point, though. Bad loss for the Bills in those horrendous conditions. Patriots win 14-10. In terms of your winners and losers from the week, the winners, Los Angeles Chargers. That was a big win over another potential playoff team in the Cincinnati Bengals. They needed that one, and they looked impressive in doing so. Give credit to the Detroit Lions. They've been knocking at the door for a few weeks here, and they finally got over the hump. And it was in typical Detroit last section, pull it out of your flight of your ass type of scenario. But they got it done. Happy for them. And then the Washington football team. They went on like a 4-game winning streak, and all of a sudden you look at it, their last 5 games, I believe, are all against NFC East opponents. And there's a piece of that where they can kind of control their own destiny in that division. They are not out of that thing just yet, and that was a big win for them against a solid team in the Raiders for sure. In terms of the biggest losers of the week, the Minnesota Vikings. The Lions were the one winless team in the league, and the Vikings found a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And you wonder why Vikings fans are calling for Mike Zimmer to be fired. Because they know the truth is that Mike Zimmer's solid to a degree, but he has his faults. And those faults manifest at bad times in big ways, and they're only ever going to be mediocre with him at the helm, and that's just a fact. That's what they have always been, and that's what they will always be as long as he's there. The Baltimore Ravens, I'm not going to knock them for going for 2, because frankly, in that spot, I might have 2. I probably would have said, fuck it, we're going to win or lose this game right here. We're not taking our chances with overtime, depleted secondary, everything else. But they had an opportunity to win that game, and they failed to do so. They could have really put the Steelers in a bad way, and instead allowed the Steelers kind of stick around in the playoff race, stick around in the AFC North mix for another week. It was a bad loss for the Ravens. And then the Buffalo Bills, too. Now all of a sudden you're talking about a 7-5 team. You're a game back. You let the Patriots win. This was a game where they needed to make a statement, and they needed to let the Patriots know that this is their show, this is their division this year, and it just didn't happen. They just didn't show up. Weather conditions be damned or not, the reality is you got to play with the conditions and the environment that you're in, and they failed to get it done, and the Patriots outplayed him, outcoached him. Period. In terms of game balls for week number 13, Tom Brady threw 38 of 51 for 368 yards and 4 touchdowns. Yes, it was against the Falcons' pathetic-ass secondary and defense, but still big numbers nonetheless, especially when you think about dude is older than me and I'm 40. And he's a few years older than me, as in he was graduating high school when I was finishing up middle school kind of thing. That's just fucking crazy to think about. Jonathan Taylor, like I said, continuing to bolster an MVP case for him. 32 carries, 143 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson, in a loss for the Vikings, had a decent day. 11 receptions, 182 yards and a touchdown. And in terms of defensive units, I want to shout out here the Kansas City Chiefs. This was their 3rd game in their last 4 allowing 10 points or less. This offense of the Chiefs is not nearly as dynamic or explosive as it's been the past few seasons, but they might be a better balanced team right now based off of the way their defense is playing. Now, we'll see how this plays out come playoff time, but right now, this Chiefs team could scare you a little bit because of their ability to not just have to rely on scoring 30-plus points to win. That makes them a little more dangerous. That makes them even more scary, in my opinion. And then when I think of coaching, you got to go with Bill Belichick here. They're on this massive winning streak with a rookie quarterback. To go into that game and basically say, we're going to play 1940 style Bears football. No, you're not even doing that, because at least they used to throw the ball with the T formation and Sid Luckman. You're playing more 1930 style Bears football. We're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball. 3 yards in a cloud of dust. By God, on 3rd down, we're going to run the ball. We're just basically going to take the quarterback completely out of the game, and they found a way to win. We all know, Bill Belichick's the GOAT in terms of coaches. No matter what you want to say about him, the results are there. It's clear. You got to stop debating that. It's just a fact. Nobody's resume can match up to his. Nobody's, especially for the longevity and everything you're talking about. And what he's been able to do here, you could argue, is probably his best coaching job since 2001. Just incredible shit. But we get to the 2-minute drill, and instead of doing that this week, I will just talk about the power rankings. Like I said, trying to combine 2 videos into one here. I'll post my power rankings post week 13 in the description box, so that way you'll have them. In terms of your bottom 5 teams, the Chicago Bears make an appearance, and by God, that's fucking deserved. They're terrible. The Lions are moving on up. Yeah, that 1 win. They're better than the record indicates. They are. They certainly are not the worst team in the league, even though they have the worst record. They're just not. I certainly think the Lions are at least better than the Jets and the Texans and the Jags. And if they had beaten the Bears at least once this year, I certainly would say that the Lions are better than the Bears too. But I don't think there's any doubt that the 2 worst teams in the league, to me, records aside, are the Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're just god-awful and terrible. Just terrible. And, yeah, not really a lot of hope for it to get a lot better anytime soon. In terms of the teams at the top, though, when you look at my top 5, I'm really not trying to be disrespectful to, let's say, the Tennessee Titans or the Rams or the Cowboys or Ravens, who are all at 8-4. But as I look at the top 5 teams right now, it's a combination of how their teams are built, how they're playing right now, and how that could translate potentially to January. The Patriots have got to be in the top 5 right now. They've got a ton of rhythm. They can run the ball. They play great defense. That type of stuff translates. Doesn't necessarily translate to winning a championship in the modern NFL, but it doesn't hurt to get you in a position where you can at least contend for that. They've got to get some of the love here. Number 4, the Kansas City Chiefs. While not as explosive and dynamic offensively as they've been in recent seasons, Like I said, I could make the argument that they could be a little more dangerous because their defense is playing better. They're more balanced. They're more complete. They have more ways to beat you than they maybe have the past few years. And, we can kind of dismiss them because they're not as explosive offensively. They're not as great offensively. But the reality is they're right there in the damn mix. And I still think the road to the Super Bowl goes through Kansas City in the AFC. Even if they're not the top seed in the AFC playoff picture at the moment. But I think you shouldn't be surprised. The top of the heap is dominated by the NFC because it's certainly a top-heavy conference this year. Number 3, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're the defending champs. The road to the Super Bowl in the NFC and the road to the Super Bowl, period, rolls through Tampa. And what they've done this year has been impressive because it can be really hard to repeat, especially when you largely run it back with the same guys. And they've been able to do that successfully. Number 2, the Green Bay Packers. I'll say this. Is that they don't have quite the same pop and sizzle offensively, especially in terms of Aaron Rodgers. Bit of a down season for him in the passing game in Green Bay. But similar to what I talked about with the Kansas City Chiefs, perhaps a more balanced and more complete team that can beat you in more ways, play more varying styles, not relying on one or two ways in order to beat you. When I look right now, if Green Bay is able to get home field advantage, may not matter, but maybe it would. Because the way they're built now and their style of play could be very conducive to playoff success at Lambeau in January. But it could also travel well on the road. Right now, though, I'm still going to give the props to the Arizona Cardinals. Do I think they're the best team in the conference when all is said and done? Do I think they're going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl? No, I don't. But 10-2 is 10-2. They have the best record in the league. And they were able to kind of hold the fort down without Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins for a few weeks. They've already lost J.J. Watt for the season due to injury. Like Cliff Kingsbury right now, no offense to Bill Belichick, he's the other major candidate, but Cliff Kingsbury's got to be the runaway Coach of the Year winner right now. As I was thinking he might get fired mid-season or at the end of the year. And instead, you're talking about they're a team that's trying to hold on to get the top playoff seed in the NFC, and that the road to the Super Bowl technically could go through them. They're a team that can beat you a variety of different ways, too. So that's what I look at as the top 5 teams. Like I said, even though I don't personally feel that the Cardinals are the best team in the league, even though I don't feel that they're a Super Bowl team as of right now, and even watching them against the Bears, I said, they kicked the Bears' ass, but they didn't kick their ass as well as they should have. I wasn't that impressed. I really wasn't. But I got to give props where props is due. Best record in the league. They've been at the front all year long until they get knocked off the perch. They stay there. Although you could argue, well, the Green Bay Packers beat them. Why aren't the Packers number 1? I'm just giving Cardinals their props right now for being 10-2. They have the best record. I'm going to give it to them. But yes, if you were asking me, would I have much more confidence in a Green Bay or a Tampa or a Kansas City, or even because of Bill Belichick factor, a New England Patriots getting to the Super Bowl and winning versus an Arizona Cardinals? Yes, absolutely. And I still don't want to totally discount the Rams, because you've seen some stat pad for the past few weeks for sure. But that's still a team with some big star presence and power. And they may go on a run here late. And they might be a team to fear as well.